Hi guys, you may notice that we're not filming on our usual camera. Our camera broke, so I'm using my iPad today to record this. Today we're going to be talking about Sulla. Sulla is a dictator who is very famous for having beef with Julius Caesar. Sulla is most famous for his proscriptions. Proscriptions were killing your enemy and taking away their property, pretty much. And Sulla used his proscriptions in a way to get rid of Julius Caesar. Sulla saw the potential in Julius Caesar from a young age. Way before Brutus or Mark Antony or Pompey. This is a biography channel, so we're gonna go through his early life, career, and how he scouted Julius Caesar. Born in 138 BC, Sulla is born into the Cornelia family, which was a very prominent family. It has a lot of famous members. However, the Cornelia family were losing prominence and Sulla grew up in a very poor environment. His father was a praetor allegedly, but the family was still very poor. And despite this, Sulla gained a good education in philosophy and Greek. Now then, you're probably wondering, where did Sulla get his money to go into politics? Well, he had 2 wives, but he kept an older mistress. His affair with Nicopolis, who was an older hetera who paid for his education, laid the way for Sulla to be the dictator that he was. At age 30, he finally became a quaestor, and he started his service under Gaius Marius. Gaius Marius, we're going to talk a lot about Gaius Marius through this video, but he was a general renowned for reforming the Roman army. Sulla first serves Gaius Marius in the Gergana War, and Sulla is part of the vital efforts of the Roman forces against King Gergana of Numidia. Then we see Sulla during the Cimbrian War. Gaius Marius was on a quest to quell the Germanic tribes, and Sulla's efforts contributed to this. Sulla was a skilled negotiator. From 96 to 93 BC, Sulla served as a governor of Sicilia, and Sulla proves his diplomatic qualities during his governorship. During his time as a governor, he navigated complex political landscapes, and he won their approval from his troops, who crowned him imperator. His troops recognized how incredible his military leadership was. Now then, we're going to be talking about Gaius and Tiberius Gracchus. The Gracchi brothers, if you haven't seen that video, that's one of our least watched videos. It was one of my favorites to write. But the Gracchi brothers were 2 quite socially aware brothers that wanted to change land reforms in Rome and give more to the plebeians. This led to the social war. Whilst the Gracchi brothers were ultimately unsuccessful and they passed away, were killed. 1 suicide, 1 death. The social war in 91 BC was because of their work. And the way that Sulla navigated the social war was in a reactionary way. So Sulla saw all of the strife from the social war, and he realized that he could sell a vision that capitalized on the Gracchi brothers' worries. Sulla was linked to military exploitation during this war, and Sulla used the social and political divisions to his own advantage. Sulla capitalized on the power vacuum that was happening, and in the aftermath of the election, Sulla moved to consolidate power. Following that, he orchestrated the marriage of his daughter to Pompeius Rufus. He divorces his wife Cloelia, and he marries Metella. He also secured the coveted military position against Mithridates. Lots of fractions and tension was happening with Sulpicius, and there was intense political violence. And Sulla seeks temporary refuge with Gaius Marius, but he retreats to Capri. However, Marius orchestrates a political maneuver that metaphorically stabs Sulla in the back. And Sulla and Marius are enemies despite Sulla seeking refuge. Marius even orchestrates Sulla's strategic military command job to himself. So that's when Sulla raises his troops, marches his legions on Rome, and tells the Senate to outlaw Marius and Sulpicius. During the following election, Sulla's allies are rejected, and Sulla's falling out of favor with the Senate. Sulla is so worried that he tries to transfer his military to Pompeius Rufus, but Pompeius Rufus gets assassinated. So Sulla makes the fateful decision to leave Italy, and Sulla assumes his military command in Macedonia. Civil war starts, and this is a very, very fragile time for the Roman Republic. The Civil War of 82 and 83 BC was devastating for the Roman Republic. It was a very, very unstable time for the Republic. By this point, Gaius Marius is leading the Populars faction, and we also have Cornelius Cinna, who is now taking advantage too. And Cornelius Cinna wants to take advantage and seize the Roman government. There is a political shift in the Senate. Sulla is busy in the east. Marius and Cinna are trying to reverse any of Sulla's policies. This is when we see in 87 BC that Marius and Cinna's forces march on Rome. And Cinna and Marius' forces essentially dismantle the Senate. Essentially, proscriptions are political purges, literally purges, that kill their enemies. And Sulla's supporters were executed. In 86 BC, Gaius Marius passes away, and the power struggle is even more. Gaius Marius was a figure who was behind the Populars faction. Cinna was a bad leader. His leadership was precarious, and there is internal dissent within the Populars. This contributed to the escalating tensions, and further military conflict was inevitable. Cinna intends to consolidate power just to himself, and Sulla's going to war. When Julius Caesar was 18 years old, Sulla was at his most powerful. You see, despite Caesar's youth, Sulla views Caesar as a threat. And Sulla wants Caesar killed because Sulla believes Caesar could become many Mariuses. Sulla tells Caesar to divorce Cornelia, but Caesar exiles himself. He had many ties to Marius, and he married Cinna's daughter, Cornelia. This was a marriage of love. From sources I can see that Caesar loved Claudia very, very much, and he ignores Sulla's demands and decides to exile himself. Romantic though, Caesar taking exile with Cornelia in Asia. I don't think it was very glamorous though. I wouldn't like to be exiled by a dictator. We know what happens to Caesar after his exile. Despite his proscription, Sulla actually has a good career. Sulla makes many reforms in the Senate. In 80 BC, Sulla resigns his dictatorship. This is not how a dictator leaves power. Sulla retires, he moves to Capri to write his memoirs. That's very peaceful for the bloodshed and come up that Sulla had. Really, really rare story in Rome.